All right. Well, good morning. My name is Toby Bremling. I'm the executive director here at the West Plains Chamber of Commerce. Welcome for joining our West Plains School Superintendent Zoom call, proudly presented by STCU and Apex Physical Therapy. Thank you for sponsoring this great call. And then also thank you to our speakers. We've got great superintendents in the West Plains, Tim Ames and Rob Recker, who we'll hear in just a moment. But again, this is going to be a little bit different call than what we're used to. Housing and some of our economic development issues have been key and have been a lot of the feature of previous calls, but especially in the last week. What are we going to do with schools in the fall has been a top hot button topic and on everybody's mind, not just on parents, but also employers at the same time. And so we are going to hopefully set our superintendents up for success to let them share with us what they know in this current state. And there is going to be a lot that they don't know. I've had great conversations with them at some of the fan mail that they've received over some of the decisions that they're making. But just know that we have great leaders out here in the West Plains that are committed to making sure that our students are safe, abiding by the rules, and doing the best they can, given the rules that they have. And so right now, we again want to thank you, a special thank you to our sponsors, but then also we do have a corporate sponsor for this event, McDonald's, located in Cheney, Airway Heights, and Fairways Plaza. For any of you parents that might be on the call, I know that Miss Rose out there, she's got, I know she's hiring. So if you've got some high school kids now that might be home looking for something to do, I know that she's got some great opportunities for employment and to have some good experiential learning right there in the workplace. So again, this is going to be a business leaders call. So we've disabled the chat function. A lot of our questions that came in earlier. I know that you might have questions on the fly as we hear our presenters. We ask that you go ahead and email those to us at chamber@westplainschamber.org. And then our mission is to make sure that we can get those questions out to our superintendents and get a response for you. But we won't be taking any questions from the floor during this call. We'll hear from each one of our presenters, and then at the end, we might do just kind of a quick wrap up, but just kind of be aware of that. Also know that this call is being recorded. And so we've allowed you to be muted when you came in, and we ask that you stay muted throughout the call and just kind of be aware of some of the other people that are going to be on the call as well. And just kind of monitor appropriateness throughout our event. Well, before we have our sponsor speak, I have one quick update. If we have any small business owners on the call, I know something that's been in many of our emails is our grants, our Open Together grants that we did in collaboration with GSI, Valley Chamber, DSP, and Visit Spokane. We did a joint proposal to our county commissioners to set aside $10 million in small business and nonprofit grants. Those grants opened up on the 27th and they close on August 10th. And so I did just get a recap from the committee, and we've had a good response from our small business owners in Airway Heights and Cheney. I know Medical Lake, we still need to kind of get some there. So if you're a business owner in that area and you have not applied, we ask that you apply. Again, the intent behind the grant is to provide funding for the gaps for those that maybe didn't receive funds, but we still want to encourage you that if you did receive PPP funds and others, still apply, because there could be shortfalls that could be met by using these grants. So again, we encourage you to apply for those. Well, right now, I would love to hand the floor over to one of our great sponsors and great investor in the chamber, Mr. Ezra Eckhart. Thank you so much for just the work that you do in our community and your support that you show us. We would love to hand the floor over to you to say a few words.
Great, thanks, Toby. And we are happy to partner with the West Plains Chamber today. And STCU, as many of you know, has a long-standing relationship with all of the school districts around Eastern Washington and North Idaho. And I think each of us would recognize that these are very, very challenging times. And so we're here to listen and support our school district leaders as they outline some of the items that they're facing and develop the plans for the fall. I'm sure many of you also saw the news from Dr. Bob Lutz, the Spokane County Health Director, outlining many of the requirements for a fully open school district for September. And I know that there's a lot of information that's really changing on a weekly basis. So we want to say thank you to each of the administrators for the great work that they're doing in terms of preparing their teams for the fall in the face of so much unknown. And I think that's just a microcosm of what we're facing as a society. So STCU is here to continue to stand by our communities and to work with the districts and the students and our families and the employees as well as we prepare for the fall. And we want everybody to be safe and healthy and get a full return. And our schools are an instrumental part of the foundation of our communities. And we're really excited to see the plan so we can get all of our students back and engaged in learning and really set the stage for a transition out of 2020 and into something that will be much better in the future, 2021 and beyond. So Toby, thanks for having us today, and we're happy to continue to work closely with the West Plains and look forward to finding great solutions for the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ezra. Also sponsoring our call today is Apex Physical Therapy. They've got numerous locations in the West Plains, also a great investor of ours too. So Tracy Johnston, we would love to open the floor over to you from Apex Physical Therapy.
So thank you also for having us and allowing us to sponsor. We're excited to kind of hear the updates and provide any support we can. So thank you for being here. Apex, we have been around on the West Plains. We have 3 locations, Cheney, our location off of Fairways Plaza, Medical Lake exit, and then out in Airway Heights. So we're just here to help anyone if they're needing any injuries. We can help you out. Thanks for having us.
Well, we appreciate it. And we appreciate the partnership. I think one thing, Ezra, you mentioned this, I think there is so much support for our school district. So again, I think even though you're supporting some of the mission of what the Chamber does, also investing in our students and our leaders of tomorrow, it's big. So thank you so much for that and the work that you do. Lastly, again, we do have a corporate sponsor, McDonald's. We do want to thank them for some of the work that they do and just their partnership with our Chamber as well. Well, right now, I do want to hand it over to our 2020 Chamber Board Chair, Eric Putoff from STCU, to say a few words.
Thanks, Toby. Hey, it's good to see everybody today, and thank you for joining us for a wonderful another virtual event. We are working hard to make sure that we are continuously bringing you these very informative and topical events so that you're staying informed and staying up to date in what's going on out there in the current climate. And so I'd like to applaud our staff right now just for the work that they're doing to help make sure that we're staying connected, staying relevant, and positioning ourselves so that we're going to be financially positioned to be successful in 2021. And what we're doing right now is working to see what 2021 might look like for our events. So we want to hear the feedback from our membership to see what you would like to see from us if things continue to stay in a virtual or even a hybrid model. How can we better serve you, get you the connections that you're looking for, those networking opportunities and things like that. So we're brainstorming on our end to try to make sure that we're staying in front of you and offering all of this great information. But we also would like to hear from you about that feedback. So I won't take up too much time. I just wanted to say, thanks to our staff. Thanks for everything that you're doing through this time. Thanks to our members for supporting us and sticking with us right now. And thank you for our sponsors for sponsoring these type of programs, because we couldn't do it without you. So thanks, Ezra. Thanks, Tracy. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks, McDonald's. And especially thanks to Tim and Rob for agreeing to be here today to help give us this type of information, because it is, like Toby said, very, very important for a lot of people out there in many different facets. So without further delay, I'm going to turn it back over to Toby and get this show on the road. So thanks, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate that as well. Well, as we get started, I'm going to offer a little bit of comic relief. If you don't know this about me, so Executive Director here at the West Plains Chamber, I grew up in Clarkston, Washington, and my wife grew up in Medical Lake. So Medical Lake is really near and dear to our heart, but we live currently in the Cheney School District. So I never thought, my family never thought, Marissa's family never thought that we would ever become Cheney Blackhawks, but that's right where we're at. So we celebrate that. But again, I just applaud the work of these two leaders in our community. I think Mr. Redger and Mr. Ames they sit on our board and provide valuable guidance to us, and just they're valuable leaders in the area. So thank you so much for the work that you do. And I know these are challenging times. I know that we talked about some of the fan mail that you guys have been receiving, but we just applaud your leadership in this time and embracing it and stepping up. And so right now we do want to hand the floor over. We're going to let Mr. Ames speak from Medical Lake School District. And so Tim, I'm going to go ahead and get your slideshow ready to go. But again, thank you for joining us on this call and your leadership.
Well, first of all, greetings, everyone, and thanks for the invitation for us to share our plans with you today. Appreciate those who are on. So just thank you for the support we receive. I got to thank STCU and Apex. They do great things for our school district. If you ever driven to Medical Lake, we have the biggest sign in the region that says "Go Cardinals" on the back of the stadium, and just happens to says STCU right by it. Apex is, thank you so much, is the sponsor for our Bites to Go program. And so they've done a tremendous amount. And also to McDonald's, our kids drive to McDonald's just to eat lunch. And so some are employed there. So thanks for sponsoring this event. And again, Toby, thanks for reaching out and inviting us. So I'll go over our plan with you. It's still a proposed plan. It goes to the board in a special session, school board, on Tuesday, August 18th. The plans are due at OSPI on Wednesday, August 19th. And the reason we did that is the plans have changed. They evolve every day. It's been a moving target, which has been difficult for us to plan. Right now, our schools are set up, every classroom set up for face-to-face with social distancing. So we're ready to go for that. So we're waiting for some things. We haven't officially announced. I know Rob has announced they're going online, but we're waiting for the governor's conference call, press conference today at 3 p.m. We're supposed to get a new matrix from the Department of Health that will help guide us through making that decision. We'll get a team together tomorrow. We'll take a look at it and we'll produce what we call a SMORE briefing, which is a video enhanced release of our plan to our staff and families tomorrow. And also, I'll share that with Toby. It'll be on our website as we finalize that. But I do want people to know we're successfully running a summer school program right now with kids in small groups from K-12. Masked up, they're doing well. And so part of the excitement was teachers were excited to teach summer school. And believe it or not, some kids were actually really excited to come to summer school. So it demonstrates it's been a good practice for us on how it could work and look with kids being masked up. And as you know, that's been a huge concern for many parents trying to understand how is my little preschool or kindergarten going to wear a mask all day in school. So, we've been working with that. So I'll start to go through our plan. Toby, if you could go to the next slide, please. I'm not going to read this word for word for you. It's our mission and our vision. It's clearly stated, our documents. But the most important thing for us is every student, every day. Now, during this COVID-19 experience since March 17th, we've really tried to emphasize how do we reach every student every day. And we're going to continue to do that as our plan unfolds. And you're going to hear me say some things like, okay, we are not going 100% online. We're going to bring students of need in, and we still need to define that. So right now we're looking at special education students being able to come in, to other students with disabilities would be able to come in, kids who can't connect because they're rural, we still have a good rural section, and kids who struggle. So, and we also want to offer the opportunity, how are we going to help working parents? We haven't figured that out. Nobody has a really good answer for daycare if your kids are being educated at home on an online program. So our goal is how do we help those families? How do we work through, and how many kids can we get in our buildings based on the matrix and how we work? Dr. Letts made a clear statement that kids, the most vulnerable kids, will be allowed to come to school. Now, our goal would be, let's identify that. Let's define who those kids are, and let's see if we can practice health and safety and get some of those kids into school. So next slide, Toby. So here's the reopening priorities. I'm sure Rob will probably share the same. The number one priority is make sure health and safety and the wellness of your students and staff is there. Like I said, we've ordered massive PPE equipment. We have about 14,000 gallons of hand sanitizer coming, for example. We've ordered 5 cloth masks for every student, so they can have one every day, and 5 for our staff. Shields, mask, disinfectant, so the healthy and safety. And like I said, we're setting up our schools to 6 feet of distance, how you get off the bus, how you walk in, how you eat lunch, how we do it in the classroom. So the other issue is it's equity. And those are the kids that I was sharing, that those are the most vulnerable kids who really didn't connect, who struggled, who students of needs. So that's been a big push. So we really have to emphasize the equity, and those are the kids we're looking at. How do we provide? Some parents are very comfortable with online learning. I'll share you some numbers. Face-to-face instruction, we're given guidance to get ready for that, and that's evolved a little bit and changed. Dr. Letts made a strong recommendation to us just last week, is to do online. But we're working to skip those most need at face-to-face. We'd love to phase in to face-to-face at some point. Communication, we've done a lot with our stakeholders. We surveyed them through a massive survey from the Center of Educational Effectiveness, got 542 responses from parents, 1,000 from kids. And so we used that to tell us, how did we do during this from March to June, and what's your preference? At that time, the big thing that jumped out, 90% of our parents felt comfortable wanting to come back to school, and the same with our staff. We did a phone bank. We called every single parent. We did what we call heart-to-heart. So we had a parent, what we call Zoom meeting in the evening, taking their questions and responses. We did one with staff. We'll do another one next week as the plan goes out to our parents on Friday to, again, answer their questions. And academic progress, it's, I just have to say, people weren't really pleased with how the spring went, because, we went from traditional education on a Friday, and by Wednesday of next week, we're online. We were in a pretty good situation because we do Google Classroom. Every student had a Chromebook from kindergarten to 12th grade. But this time, there's expectations for attendance, progress, grading. If you had heard, there was no harm after March 17th for students last year. And what happened with a lot of high school kids, they just knew that. So that won't happen again. You'll see regular scheduled days, times, even if it is online. Next slide, Toby. We did change our school calendar. We bumped it back a week. We're supposed to be at March 26th. This gives us a whole week of August 25th to the 28th of professional development. And so we're moving to a robust, it's called Continuous Learning 2.0. So we're pretty good. We took some training last spring, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Just to let you know, we're planning for our first 3 days of school is to get kids with their parents in schools meeting their teacher. So we'll figure out how to schedule that. I know Rob, I stole the idea from Rob, by the way, so I can't take credit for it. So that's our calendar. As of here's our reentry plan to school. Next slide, Toby. So what you see is we have distance learning. Here's what our plan is as of this moment. K-5 in person 4 days a week with 1 day of distance learning. So elementary kids, and this could change. So like I said, you can see with our flow chart, if you look at the yes and the no, the yes represents we can come in, we can do that. The no represents if we have to go online. So you're not going to see a commitment from Medical Lake School District today. You will on Friday on what this plan looks like. But this was our plan, 1 day a week. So kids in elementary would come Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday would be a cleaning day, disinfectant day. Even though we'll be doing that in the evening, it would be deep cleaning. Thursday, Friday, students would come in. We're having our teachers at this point, we're meeting with our association. We're saying we need our teachers in classrooms to do their work. So 6-12, we're going to do two days a week. So 6-12 demonstrated that they did better on distance learning. So you'd have one cohort, and the conversation is keep kids in the same group, keep them in the same cohort. So if case there is a positive test, you can identify and investigate the contact on that one. So we'd have kids come Monday, Tuesday in the high school. Wednesday would be an access day. We're talking about having internet cafes where if kids want to come to school, we social distance them. We put them in our libraries. We have that library supervised by a certified or para-educator so kids can continue learning. Even if they, let's say I'm a high school kid, Monday, Tuesday, I come in on Wednesday, I could potentially come Thursday, Friday to do my work. I'll get all my assignments on Monday and Tuesday for the week. So if you think about when you went to college and you had 3 classes on your schedule, you may take 2 classes one day, 3 classes another. So that's what we're looking at. And then also what we did during the springtime, we created a Connect Plus program. It's a virtual online hands-on type of program. Right now we have about 100 folks who said we're interested in that. So this would be at student paced. It's based on a program called Summit Learning. It's project-based. So if you watched our video on our website, you'd see a high school student sitting at home, all of a sudden, not engaged. So then all of a sudden you see this high school student go out to do a water sample in a creek, come back, do the lab at home, and it's a hands-on virtual type of learning for kids at their own pace. So parents will have, that's their 2 choices. Either I go online or with the school on a regular program, online in class, or I'm going to do the Connect Plus program, which is our 612 will be in our Endeavors program. So our flow chart basically reads, here's what we do if we get yes, here's what we do if we get different directives. Now the thing, and Rob and I have had discussion, the directives aren't necessarily coming out as directives right now. Just got information this morning that these are strong recommendations. So as we work our way through with our plans and what we're doing, that'll be a difference. So the blue section right there, I won't read it, but it really mentions all the guidelines we need to follow as far as that. If we open, of course, we're opening with social distancing, PPE, elementary kids coming like we just described as much as we can get them in. And then if we get a no, we go straight to a distance learning. And I'll share with you at the end, my last slide will share what that looks like for us. Toby, please. So here's the options. 1, school pace. Option 1, school pace virtual learning with preference to transition to in-person when it's safe to do so. This will be operated by our teachers teaching their students. So what would happen, and again, if we have a breakout or a quarantine of a room, Friday you're working with your teacher on your Chrome classroom right then, and then Monday you don't miss a beat because everything's on a Chromebook platform, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. This way kids have the same teachers, they have the same school, and then again with this plan, we'd look at student care, is how do we provide support for those kids needing additional assistance, determined case by case. Those are the kids that would be coming to school on a regular basis as we work through that. Option 2, I did talk about self-paced virtual learning with Connect Plus with a preference to say virtual for the remainder of the school year. So this option is really for those parents who really don't feel comfortable sending their students to school. This is also an option for us, kind of build a homeschool program with our kids underneath the Medical Lake School District umbrella. We don't have that right now. So, and so this one would be an option. So plan 1 is hopefully my kid can get back in school on a regular basis. Plan 2 is I don't feel comfortable. Now let's say an option 2 parent with a student decides in January, I want to come back to school. What would we do is then that student would just basically, it's like a brand new student come to a school, would transfer into a program. So once they get into this, they're not locked into it for a year. Next slide, Toby. Again, I'm kind of getting redundant here. Here's our final plans to be determined by August 19th. Again, Wednesday, I've really talked about this slide. So I think we can move on to the next one, Toby. Now, here's what our parents said when we surveyed or made phone calls. 70% as of early July said we would like to come back to school. 15% said they'd like to access online learning with the Medical Lake School District. And the 14% of those parents are either they've decided to go with a well-established, link program, or the other man for us, as we read their comments, is like, I'd like a hybrid model where some come to school and then a lot of at home. So this is our elementary schools. And so what we did is we set up our classrooms kind of based on the 70% numbers we had. And so this was a result of that. Next slide, Toby. This is our 6-8 model. So our high school model and middle school model will be the same. AB cohorts, Monday through Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday, in-person 2 days a week, 3 days a week, blended, asynchronous at-home learning, Wednesday extra sport time to select for students. Same for the high school. Modifications to learning plans will be offered to students with disabilities and other student groups that require additional support. Again, I mentioned this time before, these are the kids we targeted to bring into school and provide parents the option. This is our middle school, high school survey. A little different. You can see almost 70% at the middle school and 64% at the high school at that time would return to school in person. And the numbers are similar as we work our way through it. And we will then take these numbers, and once we get our schools open, actually people report back to work. People are on contracts. They're not on contract right now. And so we'll begin to do that. Support, again, I think I've talked a lot about this, students with disabilities. Case managers really are their teachers. So you can see that. Now, here's the piece that we're going to call our core 4. This is our learning platform. And I'm going to walk you through this again. Google Meets would replace Zoom Meets because we're hearing that Zoom will now begin to charge school districts, and it's very expensive. So we did a Google Meets yesterday. It's much similar, almost easier to get into. It's integrated with the Google Classroom. So Seesaw is an online curriculum that we used last spring for our K2s. It's a better approach to teaching reading. And Google Classroom will be 312. And then the Loom is a new video. I don't know if people have heard about Loom. Very easy to use. So on Wednesday, I'm a teacher. I'm Looming or videotaping my lessons to be dropped in with that. Now, with a Loom or even a video, kids can rewatch their teacher teach a lesson. So when kids come in, let's say they come in for extra support, there's a paraeducator working with them, then they can also get back into the Loom video, rewatch the lesson, and so kids can keep watching that as they work their way through. So in a quick 5-10 minutes, that is where we sit today on our plan.
Mr. Ames, thank you very much. I know we've got just a couple minutes. I know one thing that I had on my mind, you're known for the great relationship that you have with Whitworth and some of your counseling program. Just wanted to see if has that program, is there any adjustments to that within your district?
Actually, Toby, there are adjustments. We have been serving kids throughout the summer, but it's more on one-on-one, kind of a Zoom with kids. So we'll continue wellness mental health program. It's robust. We still have basically 16 practicum interns working for us, and we'll continue our mental health program as well. And we've been asking, we've made phone calls, we're doing referrals. Parents have reached out to who they know is the on-site coordinator saying, my student's really struggling with this, or even during the summer. So that will continue. Thanks for asking that question.
Perfect, thank you. All right, again, thank you, Mr. Ames, for your leadership. We're gonna hand it over to Mr. Rob Recker. I should just kind of reference, because sometimes I don't think all of our employers always know, Medical Lake School District covers the city of Medical Lake, and Michael Anderson Elementary School sits on base. And so a very large, significant military population within their school. And And I know when you talk about equity, sometimes it's like, how do you work with those military populations as well? Rob Retker, Cheney Public Schools, just for those that know, it's a very large territory that encompasses Cheney, kind of West Spokane County, and then Airway Heights as well, that kind of surrounds medical aid. And so, Rob, I'm going to get your slideshow up and running, and then hand the floor over to you. All right, there you are, sir.
All right, thank you, Toby. So I want to thank our sponsors as well. Appreciate you sponsoring today, providing us the opportunity to share reopening plans, both Tim and I for Medical Lake and Cheney. We are blessed to live in an amazing area on the West Plains, the city of Airway Heights, the city of Cheney, West Plains. Great support for our school district, great community. We have amazing staff, students, community support, so very thankful for that. I just want to say as well, we have a great team that's working here at Cheney that's putting all these things together. And so this is not Rob Retker, this is a team of Cheney Public Schools, so I want to thank them. Also have an amazing school board. One of our board members is on this call today. So Mitch Swenson, board members that are board members for the right reasons because they care about kids and they want to do the right thing. So blessed with an amazing board. I want to start with this today too. I understand the difficulty of decisions that are being made for our families, for our employers. And I struggle with many of these things. I know families that, both parents work and that the thought of their child being home in a distance learning model is a struggle for them. And I totally get that. And I struggle with all of these decisions because of that. I know these things impact our employers as well. And the goal of school districts is try to get students back on campus as soon as it's safely possible to do so. And that's going to continue to be the goal, whether we're in a distance learning model today or not. So go ahead, Toby, if you want to go to the next slide. Wanted to share our mission statement, and like Tim, I won't read it to you, but I did highlight a section there, guarantee a safe and caring environment, right, for all students. And so the way we will deliver instruction will change this fall temporarily, but the mission for our school district has not changed. It's still the same. Like, this is the goal. This is what we're still trying to achieve, regardless of where we are with the COVID-19 pandemic or any other aspect of our work. Next slide, Toby. I won't go through these in great detail because I'll talk about each one of them kind of as I go through today. But we have guiding principles as well. And if you look at the very first guiding principle is prioritizing the health and safety of our students and staff. And sometimes I think as we struggle with this pandemic, we forget that this is a health crisis issue. And as we look at it and we make decisions and we work with the Department of Health and Spokane Regional Health Department, those are important partnerships. School districts are prepared to make a lot of decisions, and we do so very well. But Tim and I would both admit that we're not health experts. And so when we look at these types of situations, we're relying on those folks that are. You also look at guiding principles or social emotional needs. There's equity within there, high standards for students. One of the considerations as we went through this process is the needs of our families, communities, and staff with scheduling, having that continuity. We want it to be open face-to-face and in person. That's where we started with this premise. I'm really collaborating with other school districts. I meet weekly with other superintendents to have discussions about what's occurring within our region so that we're talking about the same things and we're on the same page. And then of course, communication with our stakeholders. I think our parents probably get tired of hearing my voice on a weekly call. Toby, you can talk about that probably. Our parents hear my voice on calls many times and the emails and those types of things, but it's important that we communicate regularly. So next slide. Survey data has been an important part of what we do. We did a parent thought exchange at the beginning of June, and this was really tied to last spring. So we had the continuous learning kind of offsite. All of this happened like this quickly in March. And so we wanted feedback from parents as we started to prepare for the next school year. So that thought exchange was valuable. Parent survey at the end of June, really trying to see how comfortable parents were with sending their students back to school, very similar to what Tim shared. And then we initiated a second parent survey. I started to receive emails and feedback saying, we said things a certain way several weeks ago, but as the situation is changing in Spokane County as a family, we're starting to feel different. And so we surveyed our families a second time to be able to see what that looked like. And then of course, surveying our staff with Thought Exchange, trying to get their comfort level. ensuring that we're meeting those needs of our staff members as well as they have concerns. And of course, they want to be on site as well. So next slide, Toby. 3 models that we explored, and you can go ahead and show all of those there. Initially, our reopening committee was looking at 3 possibilities for reopening school in the fall. And of course, one is K-12 in person, as many people as wanted to be present. Second was a hybrid model, K-12. And then the third, which a month and a half ago is where I pretty much thought we were going to end up, was with full-time K-5, because we know our youngest learners need to be on campus and need that support, and then a hybrid 6-12. As this situation has continued to evolve, I gradually started to think, I don't know if a K-5 in person is going to be possible with the way things are occurring. And so kind of got to the point where I was thinking, all right, it might be a K-12 hybrid situation for our entire district. And about a week ago, meetings with Dr. Lutz, the health department, things started to become more apparent that there would be strong recommendations related to some limitations potentially around in-person instruction due to the COVID situation. So this, as Tim said, this continues to evolve, and this is something that we're continuing to watch and analyze. We made a commitment to our families, and I said this in many messages, that I would share our plan on August 3rd. So we scheduled a special board meeting on August 3rd. We shared our reopening plan to receive consideration from our board members to be able to move forward. And then we shared that plan with our public on the 3rd. So next slide, Toby. So this is the conditional plan that we have created. So the reopening committee, lots of Zoom subgroups, all of those types of things, trying to get feedback. We ended up landing on a conditional reopening plan for this purpose. The Department of Health, Spokane Regional Health Department, they are working to provide districts with metrics related to the COVID situation. So that the plan that we have created is conditional upon those metrics and the data and information that we receive from the health department. So go ahead, Toby, and we'll get into specifics on each one of those. So the 100% distance learning, so the first one there, stage 1, that would be just like last spring if the governor said everything's closed, nobody's on campus, this is the situation you're in. We'd be in stage 1, all students and staff distance learning, buildings are closed for access. The second one would be similar to a mandated by state agencies, except that the school buildings would be open for staff to be present, but it would be mandated that students are in a distance learning model. The next stage and where we see ourselves today is in that modified hybrid learning stage 3. So all students in distance learning, but the students in greatest need of additional support, so special education, homeless students, foster students, English language students can be served on site for minimal supervision, or excuse me, for minimal instruction and time. And so we're working on the details of that, and I'll share more in a bit. We worked out some numbers at this point, and it looks like about 300 students, which is roughly 6% of our student population that could be served that fall into these categories. And so really trying to determine which students need the most support and do we need to have back on campus as soon as possible. The next one in stage 4, again, contingent upon the situation with COVID, would bring that we'd bring students back in grades P5 for a hybrid model, and 6-12 would stay in distance learning. Stage 5, as things improve, K5 students participate on site in person 5 days a week. 6-12 starts to go into that hybrid model. And then ultimately where we all want to be, Tim wants to be, you all want us to be, is stage 6. So this is all students and staff on site, in-person instruction 5 days a week. But we also know though, when this occurs this year, we most likely will still have the same guidance from the state of Washington, right? Face coverings and distancing and all of those types of things, health checks that we'll still have to abide by. And I also want to say with these stages that it's not that we have to go from 3 to 4 to 5 in that particular order. If things change drastically for the better within the county, we have the flexibility to be able to move and adjust based on whatever that looks like. We're also very much aware that we do not want to move families in and out of on-person or on-site instruction back to distance learning and those types of things many times. So we want to be very cautious and careful as we prepare to go from stage to stage. Many of you have probably seen this. This is a letter from Dr. Lutz, came out to Superintendent's Monday. Just happened to coincide with, we had a special board meeting scheduled on Monday. And so part of our discussion on that particular day, if you look at the very bottom, this is what Dr. Lutz said. So he says, based on our rates, the existing science regarding COVID-19 and school reopening, I strongly recommend beginning the year in remote continuous learning for all students. Consider in-person learning for those who have special health or education needs that cannot be delivered through remote learning. And the other piece I want to share with the Department of Health and Spokane Regional Health Department, we've been meeting weekly for the past 3 weeks. Initially, it was myself and some of our staff. The second week, we had more superintendents. And then last week, all Spokane County superintendents. We have a weekly check-in meeting with Dr. Lutz and Mark Springer. We have one today, Tim and I do at 1 o'clock. We'll continue to do that on Wednesdays for as long as we need to into the fall. This partnership is important. There's going to be metrics, there's going to be recommendations, there's going to be plans. We need their continuous input to be able to look at and provide us with recommendations. Tim mentioned metrics coming today. At 3 o'clock, the governor's office with Superintendent Reichdahl and Department of Health, they're going to provide specific metrics related to the COVID situation. And again, it's recommendations. But as superintendents, we were looking for some guidance this way. Again, I'm not a health expert, so when is it safe to have certain levels of support on campus? When is it safe for staff? And so what they're really breaking this into is a low, moderate, and high activity. So within Spokane County, what metrics determine if we're in low activity? What would determine if we're in moderate? And what determines if we're in high? And that's what the Department of Health is going to share today. And of course, we want those metrics to be reasonable, right? You can write those metrics so tight that it's never possible to be back on site until this situation is completely gone. And we know COVID-19 is not going away tomorrow. So what we've been saying a lot is how do we mitigate risk, knowing that we can't necessarily eliminate it until COVID-19 disappears, whenever that happens to be. So the information we're going to receive from the Department of Health today will be related to this specific slide and will be important for school districts. This will give you a little example of kind of where Spokane County is. If you see the dotted line on the bottom, so when Spokane County was going from stage 1 to stage 2 in the state reopening phase, they needed to stay within that 25 cases per 100,000 residents over the course of a 14-day period. And if you look at that line, the blue line then, about Memorial Day is when Spokane County went into phase 2. And then you started to see those cases per 100,000 increase. And now if you look, the last one where it says 209 cases per 100,000, that was last Friday. So Memorial Day and prior to, during the first part of the school closure, you can see where those numbers are. Now the challenge is that when we're being asked to reopen our schools is where that current caseload and rate per thousand is, or 100,000. So just to give you an idea kind of what this looks like within Spokane County currently. You also know that last Friday we had 146 cases in Spokane County, which was the highest single day level since we started the pandemic in March. All right, next important piece for our school district. So as we think about setting up our staff, our parents, our students for success, we made some revisions to our school calendar, took this to the school board on Monday as well, and it's been approved. So what we did is we front-loaded professional development into August. So August, I believe, and I don't have it highlighted here, 19th, 20th, and 25th, and 27th are professional development days for our staff. We really wanted to be able to support the online piece, the distance learning, social emotional, the equity side of it. So we front-loaded our professional development. We've also, the idea that Tim shared, if you look on the calendar, September 1st through the 3rd, we've built in 3 days that we're going to call conferences where staff can meet with parents and students to be able to share specific information about the platforms we're using, provide the technology that we need to provide, talk about schedules, talk about how we turn assignments in. So if we're in this distance learning that we've decided at this point temporarily, our goal was how do we set parents and students up and staff to be successful? So this is one of the things that was missing last spring. So last spring we had the pandemic and everything shut down quickly. We didn't have this opportunity to sit down with our parents and provide this kind of support. So this has been an important piece to us. I've been working with MJ from State Board of Education, and we're speaking with OSPI as well to try to make sure that those days can be counted as instructional days. because we see that as instructionally important to supporting our students and family. I also want you to see we moved our first day of official school from September 2nd to the 8th, so right after Labor Day. And so what we're calling that is our first day of distance learning. And then our last day of school is the same as Medical Lake, June 16th. And we have some emergency days built in. I'm not quite sure what a snow day looks like for in distance learning, but we built some days in for those types of purposes as well. The criteria for additional support, just want to share a little bit about this. So again, it's students with significant needs for special education services. So based on their IEP, it's English language learners, second language learners, it's homeless students, foster youth, students with significant mental health needs. And we've got a matrix, and I could share some of that specific data and what it looks like from school to school, but roughly 300 students across our district that we believe will bring in during this first stage, stage 3, with our school district reopening. All right, next steps, we have a distance learning work group. Our teaching and learning director has been leading, started last Thursday, met yesterday, they're meeting again tomorrow, 40+ staff members working on specifics so then we can train all staff. We had staff trained last spring in the Core 4 that Tim talked about, 95 staff members. So really trying to refine what that looks like. We're gonna have a hybrid model work group. Even though we're gonna start with distance learning, we gotta be planning for when we come back because that's the goal. So really putting specific plans into effect so that when we can go to that next stage, when the metric says so, that we're prepared. Tomorrow night, we have a Students with Disabilities parent webinar. Lots of questions about IEPs and how we serve our students with disabilities. So we're meeting with families tomorrow night. A parent survey for students with disabilities as well. And then our school board is going to consider the final reopening plan on August 12th. They provided us with the blessing to move forward with the conditional plan now. Like Tim, we have to provide a resolution and then send that off to OSPI, the state, for approval. And then I think this is the important piece. So analyzing this work every couple of weeks in conjunction with the regional health department. So we might be in stage 3 today, but the goal is not to be in stage 3 for the entire school year. Right? It's contingent upon the COVID-19 situation. So as things increase or get better, and as the situation improves, we want to be able to analyze it so we can give families a heads up that, hey, within this situation, we believe we're going to be able to move into stage 4 or 5 and provide this additional on-site support at this time, just to be able to provide that extra information. And then I had one more slide real quick, Toby, that I'm going to answer a couple of FAQs. It's not here, but I'll do it. So one of the questions we get a lot is around technology. Want you to know we passed a capital levy last November. Very blessed that our community supported that. We're able to buy 370 laptops, one for each teacher. They're being installed right now. We purchased 2,500 additional Chromebooks. They're set to ship on August 15th. Therefore, we also will have a one-to-one basically for students. We'll have 4,800 Chromebooks within our school district to be able to support the online needs. Continuing to work on access points. Technology and access to the internet is a huge issue for some of our families, and probably an area where we can partner with local businesses and others. Childcare is a big question. Plan to reach out to community partners. Have had some contact, contacting the district. We know it impacts employers. We know it impacts our families. So really trying to find some different ways to be able to provide and support that childcare piece. Meals comes up a lot. Last year, we were able to provide meals to any student based on OSPI guidance. This year, they've really rolled that back to students that qualify for free and reduced lunch. In our distance model that we're going to start the school year with, we're going to have to look at what's that going to look like to be able to support our families. Grading is a big question. Last year, OSPI basically said students, wherever they were when the school year ended in March, that's the grade they had. Like it was a do no harm kind of system. Moving back toward okay, this is what we're expecting of students. There will be grading, all of those types of things that families are traditionally used to. It'll probably look different and be more standards-based, but still more expectations along those lines as we have time to plan. And then athletics, I know, is an issue that comes up. WIA has made several announcements in recent weeks about how they're scheduling all of the various seasons across the school year. District 8, which we're a part of, and the GSL, there will not be fall sports. So they have moved all of the sports seasons from January to the end of June, even after school's out. trying to accommodate all the various sports needs between that 6-month window. A lot more information I'm sure will come out about athletics, but that's an important aspect to a lot of our students and families as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that as well. I just had a couple questions. A lot of those were from your the FAQs, really helpful. Maybe just from, I know a lot of on our employers' minds, and I know you answered a little bit, so maybe I'll kind of ask Tim in terms of that phase approach. The employers I talk to are, hey, when are my employees going to be able to come back to work if they have kids at home, and kind of navigating that. And so I know you're kind of mentioning that you're going to get some guidance later today in terms of what those metrics can be. But maybe, is it going to be every 2 weeks that you analyze the data? What's the timeline that maybe we could tell our employers that's similar to, like, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going to have this, we're going to go into the next stage? What do you think, how quickly do you think you can respond to those changes?
I believe we could do that within a 2-week period, Toby. What I don't want to do is to just have families move back and forth between those types of things. We're really going to have to analyze that situation and make sure that it's solid, that the numbers are moving in the correct direction, and Dr. Lutz and Mark Springer feel confident in making those changes. I want to communicate that as soon as possible so families know. It can't be like on a Friday afternoon we make a decision and Monday things change, right? That's not fair to do to employers or family. And I'll tell you, Toby, this is one of the things I've struggled with the most. Like, if I get an email from somebody saying that, I'm going to have to choose between my job, staying home with my child because of this particular situation, and then we're faced with making decisions based on kind of this health information. These are like the most difficult decisions ever, and I totally understand the struggle from our parents' perspective, and that part bothers me. I wish we were back on site, fully in person, to support our students. I know our families need that. I just really struggle with, how do you, as a superintendent or school leader or community, go against the strong recommendation of a health officer? It's really balancing these things. And I want our families to know it's not that we're not listening to them in the surveys either. That's an important aspect. I think if we ask the question around our survey, even saying, hey, knowing what we know from Dr. Lutz's recommendation, how strongly do you feel about having your student on campus? So things have changed, like Tim says, things continue to evolve with this situation.
And Rob really captured that clearly. I think the matrix that comes out today, and Rob did a great job on his 6 stages, and where we're at on, low, moderate, or high. My hope at this point is, we can't jump in and out of that. We're going to be consistent enough so parents can actually make plans in medical aid starting Friday after they see our plan roll out. And again, we need some support on what daycare looks like for working families. Chris Reichdale made the only statement we've read is work with your local childcare agencies. Well, there's one in Medical Lake, and it's usually full. So that makes it more difficult to really kind of figure out as a school district, what are we going to do to support those families? And we don't have the answer to that one yet.
I think that's key. I mean, I think we've heard childcare was a huge need even before all this happened. It was something that we were talking major in the legislature in the spring. And then just realizing that I think it is a partnership between the school districts and the community. It's not, I think we were talking with others where it's like, okay, I can't have people in my school, but then you want me to house a daycare the other couple of days. So I know Department of Commerce and others, it's one of those answers that, what are we going to do with kids? Mr. Recker, I know you mentioned about the importance of K-5 and just having them on campus and kind of navigating that. And so I know it's something that all of us are trying to navigate. Our cities are trying to navigate, legislators trying to navigate. And so hopefully we'll hear some answers soon and some next steps to be able to participate in that. So I guess if anything,
sorry, Toby.
No, go ahead.
What's interesting with that too, about a week, 10 days ago, Dr. Lutz had actually said K-4 learners, transmission rates are much lower than older students. I believe there's going to be an opportunity to bring younger students back sooner, which those are our students that we need to have on campus most, right? Early learning and learning how to read and all those types of things. The data around that's going to be important, but I had heard that specifically from Dr. Lutz about 10 days ago.
So Toby, here's what I'd like to get an answer to this question. You know, Rob pointed out Dr. Lutz's bottom part of his letter about vulnerable groups. The question I would have for Dr. Lutz at 1 o'clock today is like, so how many, Rob has 300 kids that fall into that. You know, we probably have 200 kids that fall into that. So what's the okay number to safely bring these kids into your schools? You know, and I don't know if we'll, you know, have the rules changed? Can we bring small groups in 6 feet apart, masked up, screen checking as we you know, both Rob and I have set up our school protocol. So that would be a question I would ask because it's still vague. You know, it's still a vague number. And, you know, like I could say, we're going to try to bring as many kids back as possible that need to come to school on a regular basis. But Dr. Lutz, what's that number look like? You know, what is that number? What do we do? I don't know if the metrics will help us out on that today.
Well, again, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. And we especially want to thank our sponsors today. Again, STCU, Apex Physical Therapy, and McDonald's, great partner of ours. Again, they're hiring any parents on the call with younger students that would love to get some workplace learning. Again, we thank you for your partnership. I think just to close on this, I know we have a lot of questions. I think we're going to get some answers from the state here at 3 o'clock. I think it is important to know that the state is really leaning on the individual localized school districts to make the determinations of what to do. And then even throughout this whole process, I think as a chamber, we've been looking at the phases of what that looks like for reopening our businesses. And I know that there has not been a lot of guidance from a school system in terms of what does reopening look like if we're in phase 2 or phase 3. So I think a lot of our school districts, as they're trying to communicate to their parents, what does that look like? So again, we applaud your leadership in this time. And I think as we kind of continue to get information, I think it's helpful to know that our superintendents, and I don't want to speak for you, but I know that you care about what parents, the safety of your kids, what does our economic viability look like from an employer's mind of, hey, I just don't know what my workforce. I hear over and over again of workforce shortages, and this doesn't help that situation. But there is hope. I think there's a lot of leaders that are looking into this, and we're trying to navigate it, and it's not missed. So if anything, I know what you guys communicate to us on a regular basis, that you're in it with us, and together we're going to hopefully come up with some solutions. But again, more information to come. If are these slides available if we send them out to just our constituents? Okay, perfect. Again, thank you for being on our call. Again, Mr. Tim Ames, Superintendent of Medical Lake Public Schools, Mr. Rob Recker from Cheney Public Schools. Couple things to mark on your calendars. We've got those grants. Again, August 10th is when our small business and nonprofit grants, the application process expires. Again, they're up to $10,000. So if you have a business owner, if you know of a business, go ahead and just ask, hey, have you applied for those grants? Because I know financial relief is needed for our business owners in this season right now. And also mark on your calendar, even though we talk about athletics, we've got an annual event coming up on the 19th. Our Red Turf event will be virtual, but we've got some exciting things planned with the athletic director, Lynn Hickey, and Coach Bess and Coach Shante. And so we're going to be spotlighting and hopefully give us something to celebrate on the 19th. So join us then. And then lastly, we've got our golf tournament, our Masters Golf Tournament, proudly presented by the Spokane Tribe of Indians. We're going to do some tee times. We've got a couple teams left. So definitely you can come out there and enjoy. Know that we're making every effort to make it as safe and responsible as possible, but we're going to have some fun in the month of August. So again, thank you for joining us today. And again, thank you for your leadership. Have a great week.